Calaroga Shark Media.
From Washington, D.C., where the N-word Trump was looking for was not, this is Ballot.
That's right. Today, we live in a world where it takes 3 days to get to the story of Trump's alleged use of the N-word. Let's hit this. Here's a major story that got lost in the shuffle this week. It seems the long-rumored Trump N-word tape from The Apprentice days may actually exist, if former producer Bill Pruitt's claims are to be believed. Though, to be fair, Trump has vehemently denied ever using that vile racist language. Now, I'll let others litigate the veracity of Pruitt's account and whether this supposed bombshell tape will ever see the light of day. But even if true, does it really surprise anyone at this point that Trump might have engaged in such abhorrent racist behavior, especially back in his unfiltered reality TV days? The man has hardly been a paragon of cultural sensitivity over the years. Remember, this is the same Donald Trump who kicked off his 2016 campaign by calling Mexicans rapists, proclaimed there were very fine people on both sides after Charlottesville, told 4 Democratic congresswomen of color to go back to their countries, shall I go on. Trump's penchant for offensive, racially charged language has been extensively documented. That said, making the leap from run-of-the-mill bigotry to explicitly using the N-word would still be a pretty massive line to cross, even for Trump. It's the sort of undeniable racism that's impossible for allies to brush off or excuse. Of course, the Trump camp's response has been to decry the allegation as horse feathers and fake news from desperate Democrats. Because obviously, deflecting, denying, and demonizing the messenger is plan A when inconvenient controversies arise. Look, at the end of the day, whether this specific tape exists or not, Trump's record on race is troubling enough. If it does come out, it would just be the putrid, racism-flavored cherry on top of his already bigoted sundae of public statements and actions over the years. But hey, at least it's providing some entertaining gossip and hypotheticals to chew on amidst the dead heat of the 2024 campaign trail. Because there's nothing the discourse loves more than a juicy, potentially damning tape scandal. Even President Biden couldn't resist taking a swing, quipping that the allegations are just another revelation about how horrible that guy you used to work for is. So buckle up, folks. Whether this particular tape emerges or not, you can count on Trump's troubled racial legacy being a focal point of the coming months. And for the former president's team, the denials, distractions, and damage control have only just begun. Well, it seems the old cancel culture may finally be coming for Trump's star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame now that he's a freshly minted convicted felon. You know things are getting real when even LA's bureaucrats are debating whether to scrub the former president's name off their precious tourist trap. Can't you just picture it? Teams of workers carrying buckets of industrial-strength solvent, scrubbing and chiseling away at that pink terrazzo star until every last vestige of the Trump brand is erased. A gratuitous bit of virtue signaling to be sure, but one I'm sure more than a few Angelenos would happily gawk at nonetheless. And why stop with just the sidewalk star? According to reports, they may go so far as to try renaming that fancy Donald J. Trump State Park in New York, too. No more placid nature hikes among signs bearing the name of an honest-to-God convicted criminal, thank you very much. Of course, true to Trump's Teflon nature, this is all just the latest in a long line of attempts by cities and institutions to publicly disassociate from the disgraced former leader. Hey, can't say they didn't warn him. When you spend a lifetime being an infamous bore and human dumpster fire, don't be surprised when the world decides you're simply too toxic for further public glorification once legal rulings confirm your misdeeds. Not that any of this will really faze Trump himself in the slightest. He'll just double down on painting himself as the poor, persecuted martyr, cruelly canceled by liberal elites hell-bent on enforcing woke agendas through symbolic gestures like removing his name from parks and plaques. Already, you can envision the inevitable fundraising emails hitting Magaland's inboxes. The radical left is trying to erase me from history, but for just $1.99, you can get this huge 10-foot Trump statue to trigger the libs. And just like that, the griftomatic will spin into overdrive, fueling the old persecution complex while monetizing Trump's personal war on cancel culture by hawking tacky golden idols to his supporters. Maybe they'll even throw in complimentary cans of Trump-branded graffiti remover for that extra thematic touch. So while the LA City Council and state park folks may get a momentary cathartic thrill from their public de-Trumpification initiatives, we all know the mythical martyr narrative will only grow larger in their wake. Just another chance for the former guy to play the victim while raking in those donor dollars. Hey, at least we can all take solace that even if Trump's name remains plastered in public spaces, that permanent stain of being an officially convicted felon will forever trail him and his legacy. The Hollywood Walk of Shame just got a new, legally disgraced edition. And this time, no amount of public scrubbing or redactions will ever make it go away entirely. How's that for being truly uncancelable? If you ever find yourself needing just one more story so that you can finish your podcast early and maybe get half a Sunday to yourself, here's a pro tip. Just Google RFK and there will 100% be some wacky story to goof on. Here's one now. RFK Jr. denounces the removal of Confederate statues. And yikes, Jr. really seems determined to insert himself into every controversial hot-button issue, doesn't he? Denouncing the removal of Confederate statues and explicitly siding with Trump's defenses of those racist monuments is a certainly choice for someone running as an independent candidate. You'd think the son of an iconic Democrat like RFK would maybe have a little more nuanced take on the systemic oppression and whitewashing of history those statues represent. But nope, Kennedy went full MAGA culture warrior by decrying their removal as an attack on preserving history itself. The sheer cognitive dissonance of lamenting we'd have to erase all of history to find people completely virtuous in the same breath as defending literal rebels who went to war against the United States to preserve slavery is, wow. Talk about some Olympic-level mental gymnastics. And then to double down by holding up the traitorous slave-owning Robert E. Lee as some personal Confederate hero to be idolized? You can practically hear the sound of Kennedy's dog whistles echoing across the entire South with that one. At this point, you have to wonder if Kennedy is even really running to be president of all Americans at all. Or if he's just fully leaned into becoming a professional, outrage-courting contrarian, scooping up all the fringe MAGA crumbs Trump's campaign has left behind in exchange for media attention. Because really, whose mind is this nonsense even supposed to be changing? Is some mythical block of pro-Confederate voters out there waiting for their savior in Kennedy? And wouldn't they be Trump supporters anyway? Maybe it's a block of, hey, we want to overthrow the government, but we're not down with all the name-calling voters. Or is RFK just cynically chasing the engagement metrics by saying the quiet racist parts out loud? Whatever his motivations may be, it's a terrible look that will surely alienate far more voters than it attracts. Defending symbols of racism and treason doesn't exactly scream unifying presidential material to most reasonable folks. Then again, given RFK Jr.'s long descent into being a punchline among his own family for spouting anti-vax conspiracies, maybe he's just leaned into the role of professional troll at this point. If so, well played on the outrage bait, Robert. The memes practically create themselves. All I know is, having one of the last Kennedy scions out here sounding more MAGA than Trump has to be absolutely killing whatever's left of the family's Democratic old guard. At this rate, he may as well just start wearing a red baseball cap and hitting up NASCAR infield raffles. Woof. Portions of today's podcast was created with the help of AI. AI has never attempted to overthrow the government, yet. But watch out. I keep forgetting to read this next thing, and I'm in trouble. Unlock an ad-free podcast experience with Calaroga Shark Media? Get all our shows on any player you love. For Apple users, hit the banner on your app. For Spotify or other players, visit calaroga.supportingcast.fm. Link in the show notes.